Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you all, and nice to be here once again with Sangha Live for a week of daily meditations. I hope that everybody is doing well. I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of your community for this week, and I also want to thank George and, of course, Faith and everybody at Sangha Live for the wonderful work of creating this beautiful space where we can all connect. So, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, George wrote to me about this month's theme, which is on letting go. So, for a full month, you have all been working with the theme of letting go, and this week I'm going to continue with that theme. And the basic topic, or what we're going to be looking at this month, is the theme of letting come, letting go, letting be, and letting grow. How to practice with the Four Noble Truths. Because as you all know, Buddhism is a very powerful philosophy, belief system, I guess you could say. But it's a philosophy or belief system that is based on practice. And fundamentally, we are practicing. And fundamentally, we all are, you and I, and everybody who is walking on this noble path. We're all fundamentally practitioners. And that means that we relate to all of our experience as an opportunity to practice. Now, we fail to practice a lot of times, that's for sure. But the more we practice, the less we fail. Let's just put it that way. And with this theme of letting go, it's such a central theme to our practice. And in one sense, it's something that every single beginner in meditation learns how to do. It's something that every intermediate practitioner is working on and learning how to do. And it's something that every advanced practitioner, advanced practitioners are working on and learning how to do. And in fact, even up to some level of total awakening, Buddhahood, whatever that can be. Up until that point, we're always going to be practicing or engaged in the practice of letting go. So from that perspective, letting go is actually the mode of being for an awakened mind, and grasping and clinging is the mode of being for the less awakened mind or an unawakened mind. And in this sense, you and I and every single one of us, we are all in recovery. We are all habitual graspers and clingers. In fact, in some ways, a sangha practice, a sangha meeting is like a recovery program, like a 12-step program, that we're all graspers and clinging. In fact, I should probably open up this meeting by saying, hi, my name is Miles, and I'm a grasper and clinger. Let me see if anybody says hi, Miles. No, okay. For those who've been engaged in recovery programs, that's how we begin. By owning who we are, by owning this habitual tendency of the mind, and by owning it, we become empowered to work with it. We are no longer subjective to our endless grasping and clinging, but we're able to make it into an object of our experience, to disidentify and observe the grasping and clinging nature of the mind and be empowered to work with it. We're empowered to do the practice of letting go. And that ability to differentiate our awareness, in other words, that ability to be mindful of the grasping and clinging nature of our mind is in a way a superpower that liberates. And in one sense, we could say that the more grasping and clinging that we have, I shouldn't say the more because it's all relative. The more that we're unaware of our grasping and clinging, let's put it that way, the more we're unaware of our grasping and clinging, the less malleable our minds will be, the less flexible that our minds will be. I'm going to say that again. The more that we grasp and cling, or to be more precise, the more unaware we are of how and where we are grasping and clinging, the less malleable our mind is, the less flexible our mind is. The more fixated our minds are, the more rigid our minds are. And this is not a judgment. This is just kind of, we're taking an assessment of how things are, more or less. The more rigid or fixated our minds are, the more we will be grasping and clinging. The more we engage in and practice and learn and awaken and access the ability to let go, then we're making that journey from a rigid, fixated mind, attached mind, identified mind, to a malleable, flexible, unidentified, liberated mind. Grasping and clinging equals, in one sense, bondage. We're bound to the wheel of samsara. We are bound to just continuously create karma. The more we can release the grasping and clinging through the practice, through the Four Noble Practices, indeed, the more we can do that, the more that our karma becomes liberated, our minds become purified, and we are in the moment. If we just think of our practice as in the present moment, we are liberated from that wheel of samsara, from the unpleasantness, the pain, and suffering that our minds occasionally create. We are liberated from the unpleasantness, the pain and suffering that we impose on others or inflict upon others. And we become liberated from the pain, the unpleasantness, and the suffering that we inflict upon ourselves. Oh my God, God bless the Buddha. And we have this not only do we have this path of practice, this noble eightfold path of practice. Not only do we have a noble eightfold path of practice, but we have tangible skills that we can develop along that path. And that's what we're going to look at today. The theme of letting go is always a timely theme. It doesn't matter. Even in paradise, even when the world is like in the best condition and everybody's loving each other, letting go is a timely theme. Even more so today, or more poignantly so today, when we don't have to look far to see how the grasping and clinging nature of the mind, individually, collectively, it's like the old Billy Joel song, we didn't start the fire. The world's been burning since the world's been turning, but the world is literally on fire these days. And oh my God, what is a poor yogi to do? We're going to talk about what is a poor yogi to do. So the theme of this week is the Four Noble Practices. And these Four Noble Practices are directly related to the Four Noble Truths. What are the Four Noble Practices? Number one, letting go. Excuse me, that's not number one, that's number two. Number one is letting come. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Number two is letting go. Number three is letting be. And number four is letting grow. These are the Four Noble Practices in plain English. These Four Noble Practices are related to the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths is really where the rubber meets the road in our practice. So let's take a quick review of the Four Noble Truths. Number one, By the way, noble truth. It's not a casual word. Noble means high. I mean, conventionally speaking, it means highborn, but that's not what we're talking about. It means it's a high level truth. It means it's an irreducible truth. It means it is an absolute truth. It means it is a universal truth at all times, in all places, and through all circumstances. These four noble truths are true. You do not have to believe me. You do not even have to believe the Buddha who discovered these things. Ehi Pasiko, come and see for yourself. Reviewing the Four Noble Truths, the first one is Dukkha Setya. It is the truth of suffering. Sometimes translated as life is suffering. That's actually a little bit of a mistranslation. Dukkha Setya simply means the truth of suffering, which is basically stating that suffering, as we're born into a human body, suffering is part of our journey. It exists. Just like a good recovery program. Hello, my name is Miles. I'm a grasper and clinger. Differentiating on that truth and saying, oh my God, yeah, coming to terms with it, and then getting empowered through that practice. Now I can own it. I can differentiate it. It's something that is in me. It's part of my history, but I am no longer in it. The first noble truth, the truth of suffering, is in me. It is in everything. All phenomena in the universe is subject to decay. All phenomena in the universe, physical, non-physical phenomena, all phenomena in the universe is subject to decay. It came from somewhere. It lasts for some time, moments, minutes, hours, eons. But it is subject to decay. And that subject to decay is dukkha. First noble truth. Second noble truth is samudaya setya, the truth of the cause. And this gets to the theme of our week, the cause being the grasping and clinging nature of our minds. We are grasping and clinging machines. This is the cause of our suffering. Second noble truth is the truth of the path, the truth of cessation, nirodha setya, that when we stop the grasping and clinging, the dukkha also reduces tremendously. And in some awakened experiences that are waiting for everybody at the end of this path of practice that we are walking, even though there is no end, it's always unfolding. There are experiences that are waiting that bring about a transformation in the mind because of our direct cessation of the grasping, clinging nature of the mind. Nirodha Setya, the truth of cessation. So we have the truth of dukkha. Dukkha exists, the truth of the cause, the grasping and clinging nature of our minds, the truth of cessation. Stop the grasping and clinging through practice. When the grasping and clinging is released through cessation, suffering is also released. And the fourth noble truth is Magga Setya, the truth of the path, that we have a developmental path that leads to the end of the cause of suffering. Oh my God. What a beautiful teaching. Yeah. The Buddha, he got right to the essence of things. That's the philosophical part. But the Buddha wouldn't be the Buddha. Buddhism wouldn't be Buddhism. You and I would not be here today if this was just a philosophy club. Maybe we would, but it's not a philosophy club. We are a practice community. It is a practice sangha. And the practice is, in relation to the first noble truth of suffering, is the truth of acceptance. Acceptance. Suffering comes. It's our job to accept it. We don't need to go looking for it. We would certainly want to try to reduce how we cause it unnecessarily. But when it comes, when I have the pain in my knee, or when I hear the news of the day, oh my God, so much suffering. Our job as practitioners is to just let it come. We can say no. We can boundaries. Boundaries are important. I'm not saying that. But when dukkha visits us, our practice is to accept that. Let it come. Let it come. We're going to practice this today. The second noble practice is to let it go. In relationship to the second noble truth of the cause, our job is to relinquish. This is the noble practice of relinquishment. We have the noble practice of acceptance, the noble practice of relinquishment. Oh, sorry about that. Yay! Let it come, let it come, let it go, let it go. Um, the noble practice of letting it come is, of acceptance is letting things come. The noble practice of relinquishment is letting things go. Let them go. Really stop. When we see the grasping and clinging, don't even stop the grasping and clinging. Know the grasping and clinging. And when we know the grasping and clinging, it starts to unfuel. It's the karma of that grasping and clinging starts to release. The third noble truth is the truth of cessation. The noble practice is the practice of realization. That's letting be, letting things be. When we have completely realized that truth, and we're in a state of just being, there's no grasping in my system. There's no clinging in my system. I am just one with experience. That is the noble practice of realization. It is the state of being. And the fourth noble truth, the truth of the path, our practice relationship to the truth of the path is the noble practice of development, that we are on a developmental journey. And that is all about letting the Dhamma grow inside of us, letting the Dhamma, accessing the Dhamma, cultivating the Dhamma, and letting the Dhamma flourish in our minds, in our hearts, and amongst us, and letting the Dhamma flourish in the world. These are the four noble practices: the practice of letting come, the practice of letting go, the practice of letting be. We're going to celebrate this with some balloons. And the practice of letting go. These are the four noble practices. And for the next 4 days, not today, but starting tomorrow, we're going to look at these one by one. Tomorrow we'll look at letting come. Wednesday we'll look at letting go, the noble practice of letting come. Wednesday we'll look at the noble practice of letting go. Thursday we'll look at the noble practice of letting be. Friday we'll look at the noble practice of letting grow, how to cultivate and flourish. Allow the Dhamma to be cultivated and flourish, and allowed to flourish in our lives. Okay. So for today's meditation practice, let's just kind of reflect on these four noble practices of letting come, letting go, letting be, and letting grow. Letting come is about experience that we don't normally want to accept. So as you're sitting here with me, as you're listening to my words, I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But if there's anything inside you that's like, okay, that's cool. We'll kind of validate that. But what would it take for you just to let it come? Nobody says you have to believe me. Just let it come. Like when we see the news, it's like unpleasant news. Like, oh, God, I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to see that one. Okay. Again, boundaries are important, but what does it cost us to let come? Nothing. As you're doing the meditation practice, especially with unpleasant physical experiences, but also unpleasant mental experiences, any level of dukkha, any level of dissatisfaction that arises in your practice, kind of compose yourself, face the dissatisfaction, and let it come. That's our practice, number one. Number two, while we're sitting for the next 20 minutes, letting go, the noble practice of letting go. If and when you notice the grasping and clinging nature of the mind. Hello, my name is Miles, and I'm a graspaholic. I'm a clingaholic. We get empowered through accepting that that's what our minds do. As we notice it, take a breath, center yourself, compose yourself, accept the grasping and clinging nature of the mind. Let that come as well, And then notice with that differentiated awareness, with the power of mindfulness, notice the letting go happen. That's the practice of letting go. The third noble practice of letting be while you are sitting in meditation. If, and for advanced practitioners, this will be more common. For more beginner practitioners, these will be a little bit less common. But should you find yourself in a state of just being, where things suddenly become effortless, where the mind is not floating in space, that's also effortless, but the mind is sharp and clear. It could be floating, it could be grounded, it doesn't matter, but there's a sharpness and a clarity to your knowing. Effortlessness, if you notice, if you fall into a state of selflessness, if you fall into a state of timelessness, or if you fall into a state of spacelessness, there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go, and it's all immediate. Let be. Just let that be. That is the noble practice of letting be. And anytime you find yourself practicing and you know a truth, you know that you have the ability to let go of things, but then you notice the mind going back into grasping and clinging habitually. That's what we do as habitual human beings. Remind yourself, there goes my mind again. No problem. I know this. And I also know I have the skills. I've learned these. I've practiced these. I have the skill to differentiate my awareness and just to be and be with, to accept it, to relinquish the grasping and clinging, to be in that state. That is the noble practice of development. That is letting the practice grow inside of you. Okay? To simplify it all, as we sit for the next 20 minutes, we're practicing letting experience come. We're practicing letting experience go. We're practicing letting experience be. And we're practicing letting experience grow. Okay? Find a comfortable position. And take a moment to center yourself in the body. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your buttocks on the seat or the cushion. Feel your center or tanden or hara in the body. Feel the grounding energy descending into Mother Earth. And feeling the open, expansive energy extending upwards towards the heavens. As this human being sitting between heaven and earth, gently breathe into the belly. And being mindful of the breath. Remembering the basic quality of mindfulness is that it sinks. The basic quality of the mind when we lose our mindfulness, when we become a little bit unconscious, or spacing out or wandering off in thought, is to become superficial. So, in one sense, you might feel a yo yo effect in your practice, sometimes deepening, sometimes becoming more superficial. No problem. Let it come. Let it go. Let it be. Let it grow. Reestablishing mindfulness and sustaining the application of that mindfulness will gradually begin to deepen your practice. Take a moment reflecting on the mind and know your current mental state with no agenda, nothing to change, nowhere to do. Whatever is arising in your practice in this moment is your path. And throughout the sitting, let the mind be free in where it places its attention, but always returning to a home base, for example, the breath or the body, to anchor your mindfulness in the present moment with each breath in each moment by moment, breath by breath. And bringing your mindfulness back to the body, feel the body. Bringing your mindfulness back to the breath and feel the breath. And bringing your mindfulness to the mind and know your mental state. And being mindful of the space on the inside. And as you slowly come out of the meditation, opening your eyes, be mindful of the space on the outside. And give yourself a few moments to come out of the meditation. Okay, so I'll be taking some questions in a few moments. Before that, George has asked me this week to mention Donna, and Donna, of course, refers to donations and support to Sangha Live, to our community, and but Donna, the translation of the word Donna is generosity, and the greatest form of Dana. There's a hierarchy in generosity. The greatest form of Dana is whatever level of Dhamma has awakened in you, small or large, more or less. Generously share that with others. That's the highest form of Dana. And of course, that's immaterial. And yet we live in a material world. I feel the box coming down. And Sangha Live is a material platform that takes effort and manpower, human power. There's an amazing team of men and women. You guys get to experience front stage, all the beautiful teachers and the teaching that they offer, and your beautiful community here. But backstage, there's a lot of hard work and a lot of organizing happening from the heart. And Sangha Live is doing a beautiful job with that. So I can attest to that because I know what's going on backstage from time to time. I'm here, and as they say in the Dhamma, the Dhamma supports us. We support the Dhamma. When we support the Dhamma supports us. So we have this beautiful, healthy wheel. And there will be times in your life where you're going to be receiving more. There's going to be times in life where you're going to be generously offering more. All respect, but any help or support you can give to Sangha Live would be greatly appreciated. And it supports the organization, the platform, the staff, and of course the teachers as well. Okay. So before I go into the questions, if you could write, I think we did this, and George just put a link to the donation button in the chat. It would help me, Sonia, I'll answer your question first, but it would help if you write in large letters question. I think that's how you guys do it here. That way, when I'm kind of going down the feed, I'll be able to catch the question sooner. The other thing I want to say is today I'm going to take questions. Tomorrow, I'm going to do the hot seat interview. So if anybody would like to, I did this in the last few times I was here at Song Alive, and it seemed to go well. If anybody would like to do a live interview, meditation interview with me on stage, you'll come on screen with me, and that's why it's a hot seat, and we can fine tune your practice together. I'll be doing that tomorrow, and maybe even on Thursday. So I might do it twice this week, and the other days I'll take questions. So Sonia writes, sorry, I got to look. There's no graceful way to read these questions because it's so small. It says, can you define suffering? I always thought there it goes. I always thought it was a mind construct belief that I have a choice not to suffer. Pain, for instance, exists. Suffering is optional. Good. How does Buddhism describe suffering? Is it the grasping and clinging? That's a good question, a mind construct, a mental construct. Indeed, mental constructs sometimes are suffering. And in fact, all phenomena, including mental constructs, are subject to the three universal characteristics of anicca, dukkha, and anatta: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. So it is a mental construct by itself does have suffering for sure. But non-mental constructs, just being in the moment, no mental, I'm not projecting anything onto this moment, suffering will arise. Dukkha secca. Suffering exists. It will come, it will stay for a while, it will go. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Oh, there's one place it's not, and that is in the state of Nibbana. That's a whole other conversation. Everywhere else, suffering, dukkha secca, suffering exists. So you asked me to define suffering. Suffering is kind of how we say it usually in English, but the more accurate translation of the word dukkha is unsatisfactoriness. That there's a basic unsatisfactoriness at the root of everything. And that doesn't mean that life is unsatisfying. That doesn't mean that life is suffering. It means that that everything is subjected to these three universal characteristics. The first one of anicca, that everything is changing. Mental constructs, non-mental constructs, at this moment, the next moment, everything is changing. Because it's changing, there's no security to hold on to. I think I'm standing, oh wow, I'm sitting on a really solid ground here. Whew, thank God. It doesn't take much for that ground to shake. Eventually, the ground is going to shake. That is dukkha. And it could be something in our body. It could be something in our environment. It could be something in our relationships. It could be something with our family. It could be something with our profession, something in life, something in the world, something politically, something economically, something ecologically. Nothing is stable. Dukkha secca. This is the truth of dukkha. The basic meaning is unsatisfactoriness. And our job is just to get with the program. Now, what you say here, I always thought that the mind construct, you have a choice not to suffer. So that's a slightly different question. It's a little bit downstream. So, like in the Buddha, actually, he had this beautiful teaching of the two arrows. And there goes my balloons. The first arrow is when we get hit by something in life, and it's like, that's painful. Oh my God, a dart or an arrow hit me. That's inevitable. I'm going to get older. I'm going to get less healthy. Relationships are going to change. Conditions are going to change. And that just happens to us in life. And it's like getting hit with an arrow. Nobody caused it. It just happened. That's painful. What did you say? Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Pain is inevitable. That's the first arrow. Suffering is optional. That's the second arrow. The second arrow is when we, oh, woe is me about the first arrow, or oh, that damn person over there caused this pain, or oh, this or that. That's the suffering is optional part. So it is true that the suffering is optional. It is true that the second arrow is something that we create unconsciously through ignorance. We create it and we perpetuate it, and then we send arrows back towards others from time to time and create more. And that's the second arrow. So yes, that is optional. It's maybe even a little bit more accurate to say it's optional when we are aware of it. Because if we're not aware of it, it's just habitual. Once we become aware, we get empowered with mindfulness to differentiate from our bad habits of the mind. Now I'm aware. Now I can actually practice optional. I'm aware of it. I let it come. Now I can practice letting it go. I can practice letting go of the grasping and clinging. Does that make sense, Sonia? And the basic definition of suffering is any level of unsatisfactoriness. So if I just feel my body have a little, I don't know, tinge of muscle tightness here, that's not satisfying. That's dukkha. If I think about the war that's happening in the Middle East, oh my God, it's not satisfying, and it is dukkha multiplied by 1,000,000. Also dukkha. It's all dukkha. My job is to, as a practitioner, in life, I might actually get up and do something, do some action to help change the world. That's what I'm doing. But in my practice, my first job is to just let it come. Even the second arrow, let that, just validate it. The second practice is just let it go, to stop perpetuating it. And then let be, and then let go. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Check the time. Okay, next, Natalie. Hi, Natalie. Nice to see you. Natalie says, good to see you. Could you explain your understanding of grasping and clinging and give examples? Is it when the mind fixates around something? We're going to really look at this tomorrow. Examples. Let's just do a sitting meditation. And sitting meditation is a great example, because when we sit in meditation, we take our seat, we close our eyes, we center ourselves, whatever, we establish mindfulness, and we turn in. And we become mindful of our internal experience. Sooner or later, there's going to be something that's not satisfying about our internal experience. Sooner or later. What's your relationship to that? Imagine a pain in the body, or the mind being distracted, or the hindrances of the mind. Imagine a memory. Imagine regrets coming up. And if you notice the habitual nature to not accept that, when something comes, again, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, and it's unpleasant, and just habitually, Natalie, we don't want to accept that. Some people are very good at accepting pain. Some people turn towards pain as their natural state. Generally speaking, women have a higher tolerance towards pain than men, which is probably related to the menstruation cycle. But that's a generalization, but it seems to be the case. But whatever the case might be, whatever type we might be, when pain comes, our tendency is really not to let it come. Here comes the pain. Here comes my moving away from the pain. That is a grasping and clinging. That's not wanting to accept the situation. Or you could say it's kind of pushing it out, but it's grasping and clinging to what was there before. So that's why we have this beautiful practice of letting things come, whatever it is. It's so easy to let joy come. It's easy to let beauty come. It's easy to let happiness come. It's easy to let loving kindness come. It's easy to let compassion come. These are easy. Yeah, more. I guess for some people that's not easy, but generally speaking, many things in our life are easy to let come. It's the challenging things. And when we don't let them come, that's the grasping and clinging nature of the mind. Conversely, when very satisfying experiences, or even mildly satisfying experiences, start to go, our tendency is not to want to let them go. We try to hold the mind. And in our practice, I'll give you one very perfect practical example, because I in the meditation interviews, I hear this from people again and again and again. I know it from my own practice again and again and again. You'll sit down to meditate. You start observing the breath. The breath is kind of chill. It's like, oh, that's really nice. Yeah, I'm seeing the breath. And then suddenly the breath starts to get a little bit tight or restrictive or unpleasant. So naturally, we do some regulating. Let me do some breath work. I know I'm meditating, but I'm doing some breath work in my meditation. I'm going to regulate it back to where it was. regulating the breath is a healthy thing to do. But if our mindfulness meditation practice is taking us from a breath of ease into a breath of discomfort, that is practice related. Our path is moving forward into a less pleasant breathing experience. And because of an idea, talk about mental constructs, we bring it in and we change it back to the way it was. That is grasping and clinging. Now, I will say that if the breath gets to be just too unpleasant, it's fine to regulate it and get a bit more balance. But just like when a baby's born, as the baby's coming out, it's kind of a lot of contraction and squeezing and pushing, and it's the big baby in a small channel there. It's unpleasant, but it's birth. It's the creativity of the universe. Our tendency in practice is to resist that all the way. That's the grasping and clinging of nature of the mind. That is why we have this first noble practice of letting things come. Okay, Natalie, I hope that was helpful. Okay, we have come to the end of the time. A couple of announcements. Reminder that tomorrow I won't answer questions. I'm going to do a hot seat. So if anybody wants to come in and do an interview, I'll explain it tomorrow more about your practice. It's very specific. You're very welcome to join me on the stage, but somebody new, not somebody who did it before. And if it goes well, I'll do it again on Thursday. The other 2 days, on Wednesday and Friday, I'll do questions. And yeah, the Four Noble Practices. If this is the only day you're joining, this is enough for you to go through the week and reflect on. If you can come back 1 or 2 more days, great. If you can be with me every single day for this week, we are going to look tomorrow at the noble practice of acceptance, letting things come. On Wednesday, we're going to look at the noble practice of relinquishment, letting things go. On Thursday, we're going to look at the noble practice of realization, letting things be. And on Friday, we're going to look at the noble practice of development, letting things go. Let come, let go, let be, let grow. The Buddha's Four Noble Practices, ways to work with the Four Noble Truths. Thank you all for being with me today. I want to wish you a great day, and may your practice lead you forward, forever and always forward on your path. Thank you, everybody.